Okay, so again, huge thanks to Meitar, one of our students, the student currently, that was promoted like in wartime from a regular student to a vice chair of the social design network. Okay, so just briefly regarding our activities and this whole day. So again, as Gideon mentioned, and again, thank you for the greetings. The SDN started officially around March 2020. Unfortunately, it was just the beginning of the COVID pandemic. But again, Bori and me started discussing this around 2017. We just reminisced yesterday. And again, after 2 years, we have made quite a road. And again, it's very touching and very moving to see all these wonderful people here. And for our students, feel free to come and nag them. And you have really interesting people and representatives of 3 countries here, from Italy, from Turin, from Estonia, and obviously from Budapest. So you can come over later and ask questions, and feel free to nag these beautiful people. So during the pandemic, we started seeing some interesting changes around the world. And if you noticed, we kind of saw that in countries where strong communal ties were able to sustain this horrible situation, these countries kind of came out successful out of this storm. And that's a part of why we chose this topic of design and communities. Although for us in Jerusalem, it's kind of basic stuff, because as you saw, this crazy city holds, I think, most of the different communities around the world. And that's why we thought of giving the focus to this topic and try to present some interesting issues regarding various communities. So as you can see, and again, this schedule changed only yesterday due to 2 of our professors. Okay. So again, we're going to start with the first session, which is sort of the keynote speakers for today, in which we will hear 2 distinct case studies of 2 very different communities, one from Israel and one from Hungary. But in both cases, you'll see a very distinct social approach towards design. So we'll just dive ahead. And I'm very happy to present our first speaker, Mr. Rami Tarif. And first of all, he is a dear friend. And apart from being a dear friend, Rami is the creator of design and architecture at the Israeli Museum. He's also a senior lecturer at the Vitzo Academy of Design and Education, and he's also a PhD student at the Technion. So Rami, come and join us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me for this opportunity. I've heard about the social design form that Jonathan tried to consolidate in the last few years, and finally have the opportunity to meet the people behind this. I'm going to talk about a long project that I'm actually working on as a designer for the last almost decade. I think have we have a few familiar faces that was somehow part of this project during my study in Bezalel, and maybe after that, and of course, Jonathan. I'm decided today to present the practical behind my research, my design research into the social design context. So this research in the Technion will change many times, especially the title you are seeing here. Today, I hope it's gonna stay like that: indigenous design in an ethnocultural context. The case study of this study actually in the Druze society, which is an Arab minority in Israel, especially in Israel. The study is focused in Israel, but the Druze society based in the Middle East, actually Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. It's less than 1 million people. For those who are not familiar with the Druze society, they are speaking Arabic, their religion in Arabic, and they have, of course, an Arabic culture. So as a designer that come from this society, I try to understand actually what is the role of design, especially the role of designer, and I call it the indigenous designer in his society. So design in general, for that maybe, especially in the 2-3 decades and even more, try to tackle social issues. And in these days, I think it's very important to address social things that design as a discipline can actually find a very accurate solution for things. So for our especially for minority problems. I can say there is 2 kinds of minorities in my research. One of the basic minorities, ethnocultural minorities that actually established in their countries, and the second one is we can talk about refugees that came to a new land, maybe. You can see it today, even in Ukraine and so on. And they start a new life as a minority, and they, of course, tackle different cultural and social problems in their new life. So I focus actually in the first option. What drives me as a designer to this research, actually, not just where I come from, but also the neglecting of the contemporary design for ethnocultural context, or we can say for ethnocultural needs. In generally, design still not have a lot of focus in the ethnocultural aspects when we as a designer come to design new things. Okay, we usually design for global markets, and our users or maybe consumers are with the global aspects, and not really always thinking about needs that related to ethnocultural context. First of all, I started this research actually from a very private actually situation that the Jewish society, especially in Israel, tackle a lot of problem with losing their tradition, losing their, especially in material culture. And as a designer, I was thinking, what can I do? And what is the role of the indigenous designer in his local community? So I'm going to present 3 projects that in my approach can be some solution. I can't say it is the perfect solution, but that how design can preserve, of course, material culture that very unique sometimes to minority groups. Okay. Of course, we are talking here about Arabic culture. Sometimes there is a small detail that's related to the Druze culture because of the different religion and so on. But generally speaking, we are talking about the Arabic culture. So just to make it short, we have a material culture that related to minority, which is face a very strong contrast from global culture, okay? And minorities lose their uniqueness in this in this kind of way. And I think designer can use his methodology, design approach to preserve and to some kind of save, in a way, this material culture. My approach to preservation, it's totally different. I don't believe that we have to preserve things as they are, because design, especially design, of course, dealing with to innovate and to renew things. So preservation in a way that we have to make some kind of evolution in material culture, but this evolution comes with a lot of focus and intention in the context of the ethnocultural aspect. So one of the projects actually I started even as a student, it was to take a very, very basic stool, which is called here in Israel, coffee shop stool, Arab coffee shop stool, which based in a woven technique and generally in a wood frame structure. And I was thinking, how can I transform it to the next stage? How such design can be contemporary, not just in a way contemporary, in a way it's look contemporary, and it's appeal to a new generation. Because one of the problem in the ethnocultural context that we are losing tradition because the new generation not really into accepting the tradition as it is. I think it's something globally, but we are talking here about a local situation. And I tried as a designer, like to keep the craft, to keep the handmade of the basic tool and try to modernize and industrialize the structure. So I learned the technique because I believe hand thinking is very important for designer to do things. And here's one of my suggestions to the new design, which is stickable. It's talking about industrial, it's not talking about mass production, but it still keep this simple technique. Actually, everyone of you with a 1 hour training can do actually this weaving. It's a very, very easy to do. So it's not a complicated craft. So we don't really need to make it like in by machines or something like this. And craft is one of the main things that drive, of course, material culture, and especially in minorities, especially in this region. The next stage, I take this technique actually and try to go more global, go more really contemporary design. And what you see here is a series of chairs that actually based in the same weaving technique, but applied in a really complex 3D form. Of course, with a synthetic material, with different colors. And at this stage, I think the project, actually this craft actually becomes some kind of design or some kind of new design. We can talk about contemporary here. Later on, the series was actually developed and distributed in the global market and won a lot, many prizes and so on. So for me, and here is in one of the boutique hotel in Jerusalem. So the project started in the old city of Jerusalem as a craft and ended as a somehow in a boutique hotel with the same technique. Unfortunately, the production was not in Israel or was not local because such a project needs very skillful hands. So it done in the East, as many things in furniture. Another project it's called Diwan. Diwan is the Arabic Salon actually. I was thinking what kind of craft we still have in our community. And as a masculine craft, we still have the working with a local stone, actually, as you can see in Jerusalem. All of the buildings are made of or covered with stone. And as a feminine craft, we have actually the thread works, I can say that. Many skillful women made stuff like that for many years and still do. And this is actually almost in the Arab community, the two crafts that we still have, not somehow authentic to what we have. Of course, they change. They have a lot of things that we can see as a contemporary, but still the basic craft made here can divided by these two. So I was thinking as a designer, how can I combine these two things and bring them to a discussion in the Arab Salon. So just to refer to the salon was a very masculine place. The women in the past didn't allow to share the salon with men, and of course things are changed, and now we have a lot of discussion about the relationship between women and men in the Arab community, and a lot of problem, of course. So I take the salon table as a discussion piece about the situation and like injecting to it a craft value from different, from the both sides. So this is a very small amount of 3D sketches that I made, of course, based on my knowledge in the chairs, because it was a previous project. And I tried to develop some kind of relationship as a designer between the soft thread and the solid structure or plate that represent for me the stone. This is actually some kind of representation of the relationship between men and women. Of course, as you can see, I insist to have the craft and handmade as well in this project. So finally, the design was a table that made from a local material. Of course, the stone is Galili stone, which is cut in water jet technology and refers to another agricultural tool. We don't have time actually to elaborate about it. But the connection between the basalt from the Golan Heights and the Galili stone was actually made by a very delicate handcraft woven technique, which represent how actually the feminine aspect can consolidate the core family. So this is actually the final. It looks like a concrete, but it is not. But it's made actually also with a lot of attention to industrial technique, because it's made with, of course, the structure made with a laser cut, and you can like make it smaller, bigger, larger, and you can dismantle it. The last project I want to talk about, which is related to food, something that I really love to address in design. Actually, food is one of the last craft, maybe the most important craft in the Arab minority in Israel that's still somehow very authentic, but also we are seeing changes here in the food, how people do things and what people and how they use their materials. There is a lot of change, and we don't have time to talk about it, but coffee for me, and especially for Arab people, are really very important thing. It's related to hospitality, which is something fundamental in the Arab culture. For me, coffee from childhood, my parents, my family are making coffee with the Italian macchinator. So you can ask how Italian macchinator became an Arab coffee. So this is actually culture. Mocha, this is the word that we call it in Italy about this instrument. Mocha basically comes from the name of the Macha, which is the Yemen city that was in the past one of the most important producer and distributor of Arabica coffee. So we have a lot of layers that mixed in one product. So what I noticed actually that, especially in Arab community, when they serve the traditional Arabic coffee, they actually use the traditional Arab pot that you can see here in the left side. And what is interesting that they made actually the traditional coffee with the Italian macchinator and serve it with the Arab traditional pot. So I was thinking it was very natural for me to combine between these two elements and try actually to preserve the gesture, the human gesture, as you can see here in the image, of how Arabs serve traditional coffee. And why it is so important to have the handle as like this, because there is a lot of gesture when you like serve coffee in Arab culture. I will not talk about it now, but there's a few things we can discuss maybe later. And I insist in this project actually to work with the from the community actually with the craftsmanship that actually made this traditional Arab pot for like 60 years. And when I discussed him the idea about making this, actually what you can see here, this is the first model that I made. He thought that I'm crazy, but after that he said, okay, let's try it. And I think it was a very nice, you can see someone that finally met a designer that really, or someone even that really interested in his craft and really want to make something new with it, because these guys made things for like 50 years. So, and here's someone crazy one come and want to change things, and maybe it's a good opportunity. And this is actually the final design, which is you can see based in the basic form of the Italian macchinator, still keep the function, still keep the traditional bird here. What you can see that this is some kind of bird that the Saudi in the desert, they figure out where you can find water in the desert when you see this bird actually. So it was very important for the Bedouin, and because it is very important, they put them in top of the coffee pot, which is the coffee. It's a symbol, a very important symbol in the Bedouin and the Arab culture. this is actually the final design. So for me, this is a very interesting way to transform tradition, culture, in a practice way, in a practical way to next generation. And people are very enthusiastic about that. That's how a designer and craftsman and neo-craftsman actually work with a lot of respect to what we do as designers, and of course for the handmade work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rami. It's always very interesting to hear you, although I have been around for 10 years, I think, but it's always, you always hear something new from Rami. So again, thank you very much. I know that your schedule is super busy, but again, thank you. Our next speaker, and again, if any of you guys have any questions for Rami, just write it down and we'll have a brief session of Q&A. We're running a bit late, but we'll still have, I think, around 10 to 15 minutes for some Q&As. So just write some questions if you have, and we'll pass the mic later on. So our next speaker is Dr. Bori Feher from Hungary, that we mentioned several times. Bori is a lead researcher, the head of the Social Research Hub at Moholy-Nagy University of Art and Design, and the co-founder of the Social Design Network. And actually, I'm finally seeing how prestigious you are. I mean, for me, you're just Bori. So again, thank you, Bori, and come over and we'll hear a lecture.
Good morning, you all. Can you hear me? Okay, it's a very special night you have here. So I'm really pleased and grateful to be here, and thank you so much, Jonathan, for the invitation. And I'm really happy to share a case study with you today. It's closer, okay. Wait. Okay, like this, is it good? Okay, wonderful. So I will share a case study with you that I've been focusing on in the past decade. A little background of how I'm doing it or why I'm doing this. I'm a researcher, a social designer, and my background is in architecture at the Moholy University of Art and Design, as Jonathan mentioned, in Budapest, Hungary. And that's a design university where we have a lot of disciplines of design. And social design is one of our approaches that we are focusing on, and it's very important to us to show it as an opportunity for our students what other paths they could have in design apart from the traditional path. And in this endeavor, I found that I can't practice social design at the building of the university, but we have to go out if you would like to go and work together with communities. You can't do those inside of the ivory tower of a university. So we started to collaborate and seek for different kind of communities. This is a very recent photo that I'm showing to you from a course week that we had the last fall. And you see a little bench. It's not a bench, it's not a table, it's a little design object that's and the sole cause of this design object is to initiate a discussion between the two sides of a fence of a garden that we were designing inside of a garden, and we wanted to interact with the people of the town, of the village. And this is the beginning of a conversation that we had, and we started, and we used the tools of design in order to have a long discussion that hopefully will last for several years. But let's talk a little bit about how we approach social design methods and tools. So I see social design not as a discipline, but rather as an approach to design and to create. We use co-design methodologies in order to tackle social questions. And we used the field workshop as a tool where we are working with communities. Thank you. Where we are working with communities, because in social design, you can't do that on your own. It just doesn't make sense. Social design is also an embedded process. You're embedded yourself in a community, in their life, in other cultures, in other territories, even if it's virtual or in person. It's also a very long-term approach. I don't believe in helicopter projects, and I try to establish a situation always where we create mutual partnership with the community, thus create a space for immersion. And if you have this timeline and the embedded process, the long-term approach, mutual partnerships and immersion, then you can create new values together with the communities. I will talk about this this project, the Cloud Factory project. And you can actually check it out on this website, the socialdesignabc.mome.hu. It's a book about this project. It's more detailed than what I can share today with you, but I suggest to read it. It's a free online book. So in the Cloud Factory, we are manufacturing perspectives for our students, our design students, and for the communities we work with. Why we are manufacturing perspectives and not necessarily objects, or we sometimes create objects on the way. But we are manufacturing perspectives. That's more important to us. And where we are working, this is Hungary. you see it's very, economically, it's a very vibrant country with some good parts, and of course, parts where poverty is very much in the everyday life. And there are some parts of the country where people live in less than $2 per day, which is the extreme poverty line. And they are at the ROP, as we say, the at risk of poverty, or in Europe situation. And our work mostly take place in the red zones. It doesn't sound so good, but these are beautiful rural settings in Hungary. It's also important to mention that in Hungary, usually Roma minorities live at the extreme poverty zones where there is lack of opportunity for work, for employment, and social challenges are extremely strong. So we bring our students there, and they work together with young locals. We collaborate with the local school, and we worked and created some objects in their school. So why this picture is very important? It's because the Cloud Factory method, or how we work, it's all about the process, and not necessarily the end result, which is always also nice, but it's all about the relationships that we can build throughout the process, and the mutual learning that our students, that you see, the short-haired girl Reni, and Petra, this other girl who also learns from the meeting. Okay. Oh, it's about the mask. Okay. We heard those yesterday at our meeting. So they take ownership during the process. It's also very important. Here you can see the roadmap where we went through throughout this process. Every year we created different type of art and design projects, design and build projects, together with this school in Budvasilas. It's a little village in the northeast of Hungary. And we also try to establish new ways of teaching design in these field workshop settings. And we were experimenting together with our students and the local community to see, is it an integrated course? Is it a workshop? Is it a summer university? Like, what is the best way to work together? And what we saw that frequency is extremely important in this setting. So throughout the year, we created situations where we could work together. And in the first year, we started to work with kids who were at the age of 6. They were first graders at the elementary school, and we didn't know how to approach them and how to start a design process with them. So we used the tools of imagination, and we gave them little notebooks, and we asked them to look up to the sky, and for a year, for a month, just draw clouds that they see above. And from this little exercise, notebooks were created as stories of possibilities and also imagination. And then we asked Hungarian poets and writers to get inspired by these kids' drawings, and then we created a book together. That's the Cloud book. You can also download it from the web. And it was very important that we told them that we are going to create this book. And of course, they didn't believe us because it's hard to believe that a university is interested in 6-year-olds arts work, but we are. So, and we were. So we created this book and we brought it back to the kids. And that was the start of our long-term project together. And then we started to design our new other courses that I showed you before. And we started to create artifacts together with the kids on the local school's yard. So we started to change the setting where they go to school. We started to intervene in a way that was not a big intervention, but it was a small gesture. This little building or a hut that is a place for outside classes. It's on the courtyard of the school. That we wanted this structure to stay, so it's there when we are not, because we are in Budapest and it's 250 kilometers from the setting. But design has an opportunity to be there when you can't. It's a pretty powerful tool that design has, and we used this while and we were aware when we created these structures. And in the third year, we started to immerse ourselves more into the work, and we had several workshops, co-design workshops with the kids, and we try to understand what their needs are, how we can develop creative skills together, and how can we create new values together. So we asked the students for a design competition where we asked them to design little structures, little houses. And then with students of MOME, we collaboratively we designed these drawings into three-dimensional structures that then we built together with the kids, mostly girl kids, but there were some boys too. So then in this endeavor, when we were together and created these structures, new relationships arose, and a new space was created. It's a playground for kids in the courtyard. And then it's a slow process. So in the fourth year, we were still working and we were still creating other artifacts in the garden, like this learning scape for alphabet and numbers. And we also collaborated with the teachers, what they need and how we can help the education with design. And we created a herb garden. And we also created a community bench together at the center of the village, which has a lot of social issues and segregation and discommunication. And we wanted to create something where the kids would be represented. And the students, the kids drew on this column, and we carved their drawings. So it's at the center of the village every day, even when we are not. And it ignited a lot of conversations and engaged in situations that were not possible in the village. And it stayed. It's a later picture, took a year later. So a lot of projects and a lot of workshops arose from these interventions, and these projects, like photography workshops, a very interdisciplinary setting where after several years the little students of the local school became designers in that sense, and co-created with us, and used the structures we created. These are beans. And became a community, a close community of our students and the local kids. This is a project that I also would like to show, that was built upon this collaborative process with the kids, that is focusing on health. It's the Budva baby crib that we designed. As I said, we immersed ourselves in the local challenges, local problems. We spent some years not living there, but being there a lot. And we also created a network of relationships with local NGOs, and we found out that there were some deep challenges, especially that affected the youngest, the newborns, and how they sleep. And they didn't have a bed. That was the source of a large scale problem. And maybe you heard of the Finnish baby box project from the 20th century, and we wanted to adapt this project and create an accessible, safe, open source, and easy to assemble, and a very simple product that could help in a situation. But of course, it's different because we knew for a fact that these communities wouldn't use a paper box for their children. That's a problem with the Finnish baby box, and some cultures and some communities, they just don't want to put their kids in paper boxes. So we created, and Janka Černak designed it here. She sits here. This easy to assemble crib that has a very unique opportunity that you can put it right next to your bed, and you can take it off like the stick. So it's close to you, but it's not in the bed, because in these communities, people usually like 3 to 4 people sleep in a bed, and this can be dangerous for a newborn. So this attachment to the bed is a way of keep the children safe. And we collaborated with the young mothers of a local NGO, and tried to co-design and co-develop this product with them. And of course, we tested with users, and also created some other elements that co-designed with them, like this little blanket that helps telling stories in a visual storytelling way, and also tested with other groups and potential users. And in this endeavor, we understood, I think, and that's the most important lesson that I learned in this project, is that longevity is and pace is super important in social design, and you have to take very cautious steps and stay with the communities in the long run in order to achieve any kind of change. And also that sometimes in social design, the decision is not up to you, but it's up to the community and the mutual decision that you make together. And sometimes it's this decision that they don't need you, or they just don't need design, and that's okay. And it's very important for us to teach that to our students, to have humility and to respect communities. And it's a very different approach than, for example, designing for Nike. And as a teacher and an educator, it's very important to me to help students to have that understanding, because design have a lot of opportunities from Nike to this situation to intervene and create new perspectives. Thank you. And if you have questions, I will be up to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Bori, for this amazing lecture. How fortunate for us to have you as a co-founder of the network, so I don't have to recruit you in a new way. Okay, so just a reminder for our own students, we have obviously an exchange venue with MOME. So if you guys were excited about this lecture, feel free to come over, and hopefully next year we will be able to send a few of you to Budapest. Okay, so we'll take a few minutes for some Q&As. So if any of you guys will start with questions from the crowd. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand and feel free to ask. And if not, I have one for both of our friends. Okay, so let's, yeah. Just shout, yeah.
I think now what I'm showing the I'm approach to making taking this practice and rethinking again, because I really don't believe that that's done. So we are done architecture things that mean everything and then try to get to community. And I think now I'm in the process to redesign things collaborating with the community. I think things going to be changing. Maybe some going to be not change. I don't really know, but actually I'm in the process. So it's kind of like practice, then research, then go back to the practice and have at least some kind of the final result. So I have things to show, but not here actually. So I hope I can show it next. And the exhibition that I presented actually real. I think there is two main interesting reactions. First, that old people, like, people that like in the age of my mother or father, they're very interested in such object because they, when they see it like in a ex-territory of the community, like they go to the museum and the gallery, which the things that we actually don't have in our community as a basic, cultural structure. So immediately it's connect them to their culture. Even like, people that was born in Morocco, the Jewish people that come here like in the 50s and like tackle some, when they see one of these actually objects, they say, wow, this is like, we have something like that in my grandma and so on. And the other reaction is from the new generation that you can feel they are somehow proud of it. So they can own something which is really contemporary, looks good, and it's come from their culture. And I believe we're going to have more elaborated reactions and about that in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else with a question? Yeah, Gideon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. And so these objects are still there in the school and in the village. Their effect was not measured in a very scientific way. There were some surveys when we tried to understand how they use it, but we kept on collaborating with them and had in-depth conversations on how they use these displayscape, for example. And with the bench that we created, it had a long-term effect in the village because the village, the mayor of the village wanted to create a cultural space, and this bench was intervened in that process, and they had to keep it in consideration when they were designing the stage. So answering shortly, we were really happy that they didn't demolish what we did, so they kept it, but and they use it. They used it for other purposes than we thought during the process. And it was always interesting to see how these needs were changing throughout the process. And also with the playscape that we created, it was a 2-year process. In the beginning, we created just the structures, and in the second year, we painted them and we made them larger. It was a very long design process, and the result was somewhat small, but the process itself was important.
Okay, so just one last question again, as a design anthropologist for both of you. Although the two projects we saw were very different in nature, what for you would be the advantages and disadvantages of being an insider to a group you're working with? I mean, Rami with people that he knows, and you, I mean, although it's not Budapest, but it is Hungarian in nature. So, and if you think that it's easier to be an outsider or an insider? Small, quick question.
I could talk about this for hours, but in very brief, I hope that during these many years that we spent there, we became more of an outsider with some inside knowledge. But of course, it was always important for us to find a balance where we stay in the outside-inside perspective. So, for example, the advantage of being an outsider, I think it's and especially if you're working with disadvantaged communities, that you can go home to your lovely home and strengthen yourself and then go back. It's a very privileged situation that you have to be aware of. We have a lot of discussions about this with our students because it's very heavy. But it's also a disadvantage because it's a back and forth process that takes a lot of effort and humility and a lot of other attitudes. And sometimes people think that they can become an insider, but I think you can only do that if you had the same background, not just, for example, move there. You always still be an outsider. So it's a challenge, and you have to be very cautious about that.
Yeah, actually, the problem is to be outside. So, I think there is, of course, a pros and cons of that. As an insider, you come from the community, you know the whole detail and depth of the culture, and you can you don't have to study it again. Even I spent many years outside of the communities, but you still have the basic understanding of how the cultural relationship between people, what you can do, what you can't do. The problem that you always are emotionally involved, and you always have to have some kind of someone or authority, to say like that reflect about your process, to make it somehow more objective in how you deal with things. So there is a lot of pros to be inside there, and as a different from your project, and try to be sometimes outsider, to look to the community from the outside in. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it is not. But as you can say, I really ask a lot of people about different things to understand. I can say for myself, I'm in my 40s, so I'm some kind of outsider, even about kids or even youth people in the same community, because it's a totally different generation. So sometimes you have to go like a stranger inside this enclosed community, people like youth people in 15, 16, 17, and that to explain them what is actually tradition, or to explain to them how their grandpa actually lived once, it's 50 years ago, okay? Sometimes it's very hard. So I try to think as a designer, feel as a local, as a native, and find a solution that not just could be used in the Druze and Arab communities, but to find some kind of a toolkit for designers that can deal with a situation in different places in the globe regarding design into minority communities. So this is the challenge, actually.
Thanks. One last question from Francisco.
Instead of the traditional victorious intervention of the designer, engaging with loss and defeat, more like an. My question is a follow-up of the previous one. I would like to hear more details about this very moment. Benefit, because for you is obvious you are producing knowledge. Fancy material culture freedom. But how do you explain to them that they will also benefit?
Yeah. Just a brief question about acknowledging what local communities benefit aside from what designers benefit for themselves, which is pretty obvious. Again, it's a classic anthropological question. Yeah.
So it depends who I am talking to usually. If I'm talking to students, it's a great challenge because it's a very big difference from what they learn in some of their classes about how they perceive the design process and the website and how they disseminate their project and become world famous architects or designers, and it's a very interesting path to help them understand, and it's a lot of conversation. But I have to say that it changed in the past few years, and how education changed, conversations with students about this and colleagues about this also changed into a good, because they learn more about the participatory approaches and methods and the processes. And what I always highlight is that it's much more about the process than the end result. And you will not have a good end result that is respected by the community who you're designing with if the process is not good. We also explain them these processes through doing them, because it's a learning.
For me, actually, one of the challenges is to explain to certain parts of the community that they are really losing their tradition. So it's not an obvious thing to understand, because when the process is very slow, you are losing things in a way that you don't even realize it. So we're gonna wake up in like 30 years and we're gonna become an traditionalist, maybe, I don't know how to say that. And as you can see, I'm really emotionally involved in that. So for me, it's very important, first of all, to explain how we are losing tradition, why it happens, and the way that it's gonna be continuing. We cannot stop the evolution of the tradition. So what I'm trying to say is we have to choose what to take with us to the future. The core things we have to keep, because it is important as part of our identity and our culture. And if not, we're gonna look the same, we're gonna talk the same. Maybe it's good, I don't know, but I think it's very important to have this kind of uniqueness. So, but I can say also, if you like try to understand this losing, you're gonna see a lot of problems, social problems that happen because of this kind of, I'm not really sure who I am now, or why I'm dressed like that, or why I'm look Western, speak Western, and of course I speak half Hebrew, half Arabic. With my mother I speak Arabic, with my brother I speak half Arabic, half Hebrew. Usually here I speak Hebrew, and so that we are living in a time which is like the borders between like uniqueness, unique culture is not exist. So you have to formulate some kind of, maybe in a social way, not just and this is my contribution as a designer to the process, to say, okay, I want to deal with the material culture tradition, and like to make effort to pass it to the next at least 1-2 generations. How it's going to be passed? It's going to be developed. It's going to be changed. So it is not a preservation in a way as a museum do things, because as a product designer, I can say, if object not in the daily use, I think it is not designed, and it is mostly useless. So it's like to put it in the museum and say it was like that, they use it like that, and that's it. So when things in our daily life, it's going to be always change. So I'm try like to be aware of this change and try to maybe make some effect on it, but not really let it do whatever you want to do.
Okay, so we'll have a later session of Q&As after all of the sessions. So again, a huge thank you to both Rami and Bori. Again, we're a bit late, so we'll have just a very, very short break of 5 minutes. And please come back. We're having the second session, which is also very interesting. So we'll see you in 5 minutes.
So, hi everybody. So, as Jonathan said, my name is Moran Barak. I'm HADASSA Academic College graduate from 2018. I'm currently a teaching assistant here in product development course. I'm a service designer at Jerusalem Municipality, and I'm finishing my master's degree in Bezalel Academy in the Design Management and Innovation track. And I'm not used to speaking on my work in English, so sorry if some kinds of things are not. So I work in the Jerusalem Municipality and especially in the Community Service Administration, which works in 4 pillars. The first one is the welfare services. The second one is the Employment Institute. The third one is Aliyah department, which means we encourage immigration abroad to Jerusalem, and the public health department, which is promoting. Mostly our work is from the welfare services, which is like 80% of the workers inside the administration. So service design in the public service arena is usually, for me, it's first of all, it's communicating the voice of people. The second of all, it's encouraging innovation and creative thinking inside and really boxed place. And the third one is implementing development process at the organization. That's most of my work in the last 3 years. So here we have the design thinking model, as we all know, the double diamond, which I really love it because it helps to explain my colleagues the design process and how it grows and then more focused. And downstairs, there is all the milestones that I'm going through with all my colleagues, which the first one is identifying issues based on data or financial interest. I won't speak on the political side of it. The other column is collecting information bottom up, which mostly contains my work, as I will show in the case study. Making decision makers familiar with the field and familiar with people, citizens here in Jerusalem, and proving that we have a great concept and making the product sustainable over time. That's our main goal through design process. So I will demonstrate today the Safe at Home project. It's a service that is here in Jerusalem for the last year and a half. The brief that we got from the mayor, Moshe Leon, was make a plan that will prevent senior citizens in Jerusalem from falling down on their homes, which is a really weird question to ask a municipality to do something in a citizen home, inside their homes. But you will see, it's okay. So Jerusalem is it's the largest city in Israel, and it contains the largest senior citizen in Israel. It's 85,000, 60,000 of them are over 70, and you can see that we have plenty of them are living alone. So the problem is, from the age of 65 to the years, everybody will fall. And those fall can affect on the fear of falling again and doing things. It's really impair people, the physical and mental deterioration, the low rehabilitation, and the independence are things that cost a lot of money. Also to the public health, Eric Lalit is making 300 fracture surgeries per year, and the cost is 125 million. And we are not talking about the welfare services and the public health one that are what. Okay, so during the research, we interviewed 20 senior citizens. We have 5 interviews with professionals, which is physiotherapists and NGOs that had an interest in this. We conducted a focus group and we had a 1-month prototype. And all this is happening when we have COVID along the way, so it took a while. So here we have some insights that are really critical to us speaking about the solution that we now have. The first one is from in and out. As people feel safer, they are in their homes, the sense of security and mobility is increasing outside. The second one is the senior citizen keep their sense of self-worth and independence by refusing to get help, which is really important. The third one is knowing prevention, save and improve life in the future, life quality in the future is not enough to make people take action and do things different. And the fourth one is trust issue, which is a really flat insight, but it's really key to our values that later on you will see in our service. So people are anxious about their privacy and personal security, especially in old age, and it grows as they are more feeling less independent. And the fifth one is a key for for us when developing the process is going the extra mile is very important for us. Like in every meeting that we have with a citizen during this plan or program that we will have, we want to make a connection that can lead to other activities and other services in the community. So here is, I will present two personas that we had. First one is Hannah and Mordechai, and we made them to make the decision maker more familiar with the crowd. So the first one is Hannah and Mordechai, which is a really healthy couple that goes to jogging every day, and they are not lonely, and they have high mobility, and they have a really good family backbone, and everything is great, but we don't know what happened at the day after. And the day after is usually looks like that. When Yoram here is a new widower, and he lost his wife a few months ago, and he need to learn how to get by himself alone, and is feeling more ill, and he's probably will fall in the next year. So our proposal is based on two things. One, we want to make homes safer by consulting and installing different accessories inside citizen homes. And the other one is encouraging senior citizens to be active and involved in the community and the neighborhood. It's important to keep more active life or quality of life and longer time. So we are testing our assumptions inside the community. That's the prototype. We want to know what kind of specialties our team need, what kinds of interaction and how we are going to do them, who is the home safety expert, and how we will market the plan. So here are a few pictures from our prototype, which we went for 1 month long inside the community here in Jerusalem, went to people's homes and installed a simple kit, home safety kit. And then we feedback everything from training the team, from marketing. We had a mock-up call center with a student with a cell phone, hands are cold, and always try to write the script, the call script to the. Okay. And here is our solution. When we have the service that it's called, that it's home safety, experts are invited to senior citizen home by the call center. It's important to us so they can be active at the first time. They call us, they invited us in, they feel safer. As you can see, all of our home safety experts are older, and it's important to us because we wanted to seniors to feel close in age to the people that come into their home. It was important to us. The second thing was they are coming, they have emergency kits, things for emergency like a smoke detector and such, or safety things like you can see the handlebars. And the third thing that they do inside the home is sit down, drink coffee or tea or even water, and show what's going around, what kind of thing they can do inside the neighborhood. And if they want to do it, they can, if they want to do something, we are connecting them to the service. And here we have our back office. It's a really patient call center that can take a call like for 15 minutes up to half an hour, sitting down and asking the question and hearing about the fall that happened last year and about the grandchildren that doesn't call. And it's really important for people so they can feel really comfortable inside us. We have a team that is responsible to connect between citizens and the community. That's all they do. And we have a marketing campaign that is always changing. Like right now, we are focused on the ultra-Orthodox community. And so they having lectures inside of synagogues. And for the last year and a half, Safe at Home is a program that's happening, and almost 9,000 senior citizens in Jerusalem got a visit from the Safe at Home, which is amazing. The program got really a lot of interest from HMOs, the Office of Health, and other municipalities want to implement them, and we try to see how we can adjust it to other. And the organization, the community administration, in Jerusalem municipality where I work, they got really familiar with human-centered design and working with the community, and they are open the way to more projects like in unemployed people during the COVID. Right now we are speaking on gap year in the Palestinian community and how we can get people more in work and study after school. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Moran. Here in Israel, we say that parents gain weight when they're proud of their children from the satisfaction of seeing them succeed in life. So again, we're very proud of Moran as a graduate of our department and now as a teacher. So thank you again for this interesting and illuminating. Okay, so moving on to our second lecture here in the second session. We'll hear a lecture from Galit Shvo, and Galit is a senior lecturer. I don't know why I'm looking at the paper because I know you for 15 years, but in any case, Galit is a senior lecturer. Stick to the paper. So Galit is a senior lecturer here at HADASSA for a lot of years. She's also a teacher at Bezalel Academy of Art and Design at the graduate program of industrial design. Galit has won various awards along the years and presented at prestigious venues and biennales around the world. And she's also, I don't know if not an industrial designer anymore, but a design researcher and a design thinker and a lot of other descriptions. So Galit, please join us.
Hi, everybody. Kind of weird to talk to you in English. But okay. So in this very short talk, we would like to talk about how we try to make our students go out of the studio in two cases or two projects from our space and humans course in the third grade, and even more narrowing the subject to the last 2 years, where public spaces were the only spaces where people could really meet. and social distancing was the words that we mostly heard. So we dealt with the distance and closeness in all kinds of meanings. So this course is usually in public spaces or outside. Okay. First of all, what is community? We need Jonathan for that.
Okay, so again, as Galit mentioned before, the concepts of closeness and distance are key in Israeli culture, as I mean our guests probably found out. It was always a bit frightening for me, and also a bit funny when I worked at COVID with the people in Eastern Jerusalem, and they felt obligated to scream in my face and lower their masks, so for me to clearly understand them and create a bond, a warm connection, or hug me without their mask, obviously. So indeed, and again, our whole concept of this day surrounds around communities, and we thought about perhaps starting with the very definitions of community, and as you can see, there is difference between the sociological aspect and the psychological aspect of community. And it's very interesting to see that from a dictionary point of view, a community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common, which again, in the Israeli context is key. First of all, living together in Israel, it's actually living inside your living room, although it have nothing to do with these people. And you have the same characteristics, either cultural ones or religious ones or social ones. And the second one is even more interesting. We believe that it's a feeling of fellowship with others, which is a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And again, in Israel, it could be a bit annoying and not necessarily welcome, but we do it anyway. And another concept is social interaction, which is a byproduct or another level of community, which is, again, from the APA, it's a process that involves reciprocal stimulation or response between two or more individuals. And indeed, these two concepts, we believe, are key to all designers, but are extra important for us working in inclusive design and working with what is known now in the UK as design partners instead of users or any other less close concepts. Yeah.
Okay. So, like these 2 years, I think we felt the community of the people who live next to each other very strongly, because like digital or communities over digital platforms, like the community of designers next to community with the one who lives next door to me, because we are in a lockdown and we need each other. So we want to, I want to show two cases or two projects from the last 2 years. In this course, like at the beginning of the 3rd year, I see here students from the second year that are going to take that course next year. I would think about these 3 words here, if I knew that you were here, but I think that our job as teachers, or my job in this course, is first of all to create chaos, to confuse, to mix up, and no presumptions allowed, especially after 2nd year where you learn a lot about strategy, methodologies, programma, and like working from large scale, very theoretically, and throw them outside of the studio. Then I can go back to this Georges Perec, which is who is one of the favorite authors in our department. And like 40, I'm taking like 40 years back to things or projects that he gave to himself, like go out, like wandering in the street, to do it very open-minded, not to think of anything, to write everything, to look at everything. And he, even the hour, the date and the weather, and ask ourselves, do we know how to see, watch, and observe? And his answer is no, nothing is amazing. Nothing amazes us anymore. We can't see. So we start with this, going out and just wandering around town, like around the city, and look and observe and try to find human phenomena or behavioral phenomena that sometimes annoy us, make us happy, or move us in a very emotional way, and start working from there. So it goes like each year it's the same, like the people are walking in the streets and observing, and feel like they're in a fog and they don't know what to do. But after a while and after a few sessions or iterations, we discover things and we find inspiration in things that we find with the community and not from our inside. Then we do like make a very rapid prototype, like an intervention to see if if we can change a little bit the behavior of people outside. And that is like a wheel of iterations, like interventing, analyzing, thinking, and interventing again. And this process is what refines the concept. It's not that we are coming with a concept and impose it like on the streets or in the public spaces. And designing comes last. The first project is of two students, or one of them is Chemdat and Zohar. I don't know if that this piano in the street is only in Israel or only Jerusalem, or is it familiar in other places too? Is it familiar? Like a concrete piano, electric piano in the street. And this focus instrument that Chemdat and Zohar found very, they were very curious about it, about what the people do, how they communicate. Is it like a magnet that draws people together? And they tried to make the whole experience around it more effective or a better experience. So they put like papers and pens and pencils and try to make people who stand and listen create something or make themselves busy. And analyzed, of course, that there, if 33% of the people were talking with, strangers, like to 66% of people who were talking, or people who are who got closer to the piano, and so on, and like analyzing the gaze, the talking, and photography elements. And of course, interventions of, is it the piano or the options people to stand and paint together. And like all these iterations led them to the conclusion of people who gather because of music, or some person is playing music. When they are not just standing and listening, they stay longer, they interact with each other, they have something to do, they can contribute with like drawings. And this invention of a concrete surface that you can only draw with water, and it dissolves with time, and made like everything comes in place, fall in place. This is a movie, I guess. No movie here. Okay, we won't see the movie. We want to watch the movie, I guess. Or this one. This one? Okay. It's very short, right? Jawohl. Okay. Okay. That's the stage of designing, like the design just falls in place. It's a conclusion of all the iterations. And that's one project that I felt was dealing with how to get people together again after these 2 years. Second project is a project from last year of 3 students during the lockdown, observing and finding like new behaviors of people in the streets, like eating out. I don't know, again, if it's only in Israel, but or everywhere around the world, that you can't sit in restaurants, you take away food and you have like a sidewalk picnic. That was the name of the project. And all the things that are coming with this new behavior. So a lot of like hanging out, taking pictures, understand how people sit and eat and where, and how is the public space is like well organized for this new behavior or not, and talking to people and trying to understand. I'm also thinking about all the disposables, but that was not the main course of this project. So we see all these observations and like identify all these how people improvise. Yeah, like improvised solutions, ad hoc solutions. Even municipality in Tel Aviv, like the municipality brought plastic boxes and put on the street for the people with very happy colors, like pink and yellow, to help people like just sit around and eat. And the interventions were, where can we add spots that can be like identify things that are already in the street and just add on something. So of course, we can see all the iterations and checking the do I eat alone or with someone? Usually it was with someone. It was an opportunity to hang together. and of course the design proposal, which is we don't get into really detailed planning or object, but like from that, and we won't see the movie, but that's a suggestion of the project. It's one semester, so it's like 3 months of like overall the research and the design proposal. That's it. If you want to say something more, then okay.
Okay, so thank you, Galit, for this interesting ideation. Mohan, please join us here. And Galit, can you actually? Yeah. Actually, I remember that a year ago. I don't know if you guys saw, but one of the examples that Galit showed was of a burger place that is really nearby. And a year ago in Israel, we had the restrictions that people weren't able to sit and eat inside restaurants. So they had to come over and wait 20 meters from the entrance of the restaurant, which was very weird. So only here, once I came over to order a burger, and then I saw a delivery guy take a motorcycle helmet, put it on his head, take the bag and walk the 20 meters. And I asked him, what the hell are you doing? And he said, I'm doing a delivery. Just wait there. And then went back, yeah. Exactly, yeah, short distance, yeah, with an acronym, short distance delivery system or something. Okay, so again, if anyone has questions, and if not, obviously I will have some. So let's start with people from the hall. Okay, so let's warm up the crowd. Yeah. Okay. So first question to Moran. Again, I bet students will have the same questions, but what are the unique features of working as a designer, or specifically as a service designer inside the municipality? And if there are quirks and features specific to the Jerusalem municipality?
We have no time. Timer. And so for the different quirks, we don't have enough time to start. There's a lot of anecdotes about how difficult it is to work inside really full of bureaucracy space. Good. Yeah, I should have zoomed in. Okay. Let's do it all over again. What is the question? Yes. Okay. So let's do it again. What is the question? Yeah.
Okay, so again, if there are any specific features and unique features of a designer working inside a municipality, and specifically to the Jerusalem municipality.
Okay. So the first one, and the most important one, I'm really odd. I'm the odd person out always. I need to really convince people to do things that they are not used to. It's a really multidisciplinary arena, and it's really, really difficult to get people out of their chair and out of the office and going outside and meeting people. Most of the people I work with work there for a lot of time. They think they know it. They think they know the community. They think they know people. But things are changing always, constantly. And I really need to do a lot of, most of my effort is to let people go outside of the office as I go outside. And if they're not going outside, so I need to bring it in. and then they need to see it, and then they need to go outside, and it's like this is the iterative process that I have during my work. And I think that my goal is to change the way we think about projects, the way we think about services as something that is going from our intuition inside the organization and working from knowledge about the people, about citizens, about users or design partners, or however we call it, just people. And that's it. Yeah.
Thanks. And a very different question to Galit. Again, as probably even more than other educators here, I know that your courses are very poetic in nature, you can say, and very, I mean, you generate ideas from, as you mentioned, George Perec and other theoretical people. So how would you anchor students to the very grounded nature of design through all the chaos that you mentioned and all the various ideas and abstractions?
I don't know really. I think that the methodology is like not having any methodology. It's to work from between the methodologies and try to refine your intuition and to know or to trust yourself in what you see and what you feel when you see people or want to have a project with people, and to trust your intuition because it's an informed intuition. It's not just based on nothing. It's based on experience and knowledge and references and everything you've done till now. It's hard sometimes because we need to have like rules and work with rules, and sometimes it's easier, but it's not always the best way to work. It's part of, I don't know, design pedagogy, ideation. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, so again, thank you, Moran and Galit. And we'll start immediately the next session. So Plia, please come over and we'll just jump over to the last session of today. Okay, so again, a great pleasure to introduce Plia Zinger, who is currently a fourth-year design student here at HAC. Plia specializes in the connections between design and culture and design and, let's say, unique communities and challenging communities. And she has a very, very unique and interesting project that she will show and share with us today. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Plia Zinger. I learn here in academic HADASSA College. My final project focuses on raising awareness and encouraging early screening for breast cancer among ultra-Orthodox women. Ultra-Orthodox Jews known in Israel Haredim follow a stream of Orthodox Judaism characterized by strict adherence to mitzvot, religious commandments, and strict following of the religious law. Their culture and lifestyle is very conservative. From a social perspective, the ultra-Orthodox community has characteristics that often contribute to the problem of the late discovery of cancer. Why? I will explain 4 points. Social isolation. They don't have access to smartphones and internet, keeping them cut off from late discovery of information. The Torah, rabbinical authority. The religious leaders dictate what is permissible and what is forbidden. If the rabbis don't instruct the community to do something, people will not decide to do it independently. 3, collective society. Ultra-Orthodox behavior is heavily shaped by collectivism and social norms. The community is the center of people's lives, and there is very little room for individual exploration. Therefore, if there is no communal discussion of awareness about a certain issue, the individual will avoid it or fear of being branded as different, something that could harm the reputation, the family, and its place in the community. For patriarchal society, the man is the leader of the family, and the division of tasks is very clearly laid out based on gender roles. The men learn Torah while the women earn a living and raise the children. Social status is heavily defined by gender and by living in accordance with hierarchy and the rules of the group. As in any closed society, there is a strong expectation not to air out the dirty laundry to the outside world, to appear to others as is everything within the community is perfect and ideal. The ultra-Orthodox also have a deep fear of being different from others and worry about what people will say or think about them. As I mentioned, most don't have a smartphone or internet, meaning that they don't have fast, direct access to information. They only have access to information shared with them by their leaders or things they learn at their workplace or in public institution. Within the community, there is conflict about whether to turn to external parties to solve internal issues or to deal with them solely through community members and spiritual leaders. According to research, in approximately 60% of cases, people decide not to involve outsiders. In Israel, there are about 5,800 ultra-Orthodox community, ultra-Orthodox women. And are they different from the rest of women in Israeli society? What is the problem? Ultra-Orthodox women are not getting tested or checked for a sign of breast cancer. And we know that early detection of breast cancer saves lives. I chose to deal with an unspoken phenomenon and the high percentage of ultra-Orthodox women out die of breast cancer. This cancers me as a woman, as a mother. I hope to promote awareness and personal responsibility as well as deepen to connect the connection between women and their bodies, not only conceptually, but practically. My traditional lifestyle enabled me to respect the beliefs and value the ultra-Orthodox community, to learn with them, and gently change perception regarding the possibilities that exist for women to live healthier and more fulfilling lives. In order to understand how bad the situation, you can see the data. In Israel, there are 5,539 cases a year of breast cancer, 1,242 of these cases end with death. Eight hundred and 69 of the women who die are ultra-Orthodox women. With 70% of all deaths per year. But the ultra-Orthodox are less than 20% of the population. Within the ultra-Orthodox sector, ignorance regarding illness leads to many preventable deaths. The first thing I needed to do was try to understand the gaps between the groups and other sectors of society. What are the specific needs of this community? And why does it require a different approach? There are many barriers that I needed to consider, including both gaining access to ultra-Orthodox women and earning their trust and confidence. There are suspicions that people from the outside are trying to destroy their conservative lifestyle and values. I went to Mea Shearim, and from random encounters with women on the street and the organized meeting in local community centers in the neighborhood, I understood that these barriers are divided into several categories. One, the first are barriers in faith and religious belief. These women believe that whatever God decides will happen is what will happen, so there's no reason for us to be active, participant in our own lives. Second, social, community, and family barriers. The sense of the community is very strong in ultra-Orthodox society. In order to be part of the community, one needs to live according to the laws. A genetic disease can have a negative impact on the family. Ability to find spouses for negative impact on the families. Ability, again. Genetic disease can have negative impact on families' ability to find spouses for their children in the future. Therefore, families try to keep illness a secret from the community. Third, cultural barriers. There is not enough information about this topic because they don't have convenient, open, or direct access to information. Fourth, physical technical barriers. Women are very busy earning a living and raising their children. Getting checked is simply not priority. Also, women don't touch themselves due to the importance of modesty in the community. It's not part of the community discussion or the way in which they relate to the bodies, because men have a religious prohibition against masturbating. Women also refrain from deriving pleasure from the body. After understanding these barriers, I created a strategy for action. This is where my empirical research begins. I went to meet with women who are influential in the ultra-Orthodox community. I spoke to them and formed a relationship built on trust. I approached them again and again until they agreed to be part of this change. Many women did not agree to meet with me because I'm a non-ultra-Orthodox person coming from the outside to intervene in their lives. But some did. They work in the following place. First place is lingerie store for young women. The first time a girl gets fitted a bra, she encounters her body from up close. To a wig fitter, wig shop. After they get married, ultra-Orthodox women cover their hair with a wig, both to follow the laws of modesty and as an external sign that they are married. Women go to a wig shop every few months to get their wig treated or washed. The wig shop serves as a space for women to meet and chat while they wait in line. Mikveh bath attendant. Once they are married, women need to observe a period of distance and abstinence from their husband during menstruation, called the nida period. The period lasts almost 2 weeks. Before dipping in the ritual bath, there is female attendant known as a balanit, who checks that the woman completed all the required preparation, including deeply cleaning her entire body. As a person who is present with women during very intimate time, their attendant has an important role in the community. For example, in instance of domestic violence, the mikveh attendants are often those that can first identify and help a victim, earning them the status of trusted confidant. Neighborhood community centers. These centers serve as a social meeting place and venue for community events and activities. This is all the picture I took during my research. Based on an understanding that awareness needs to begin from a young age, I chose places that women naturally go to, where they can be informed about the importance of early detection of breast cancer. What I learned from my research. Throughout my encounters with women, it was important for me to show them that I was on their side and that I wanted to promote these projects not as an external force, but as a woman who genuinely cared about other women. Therefore, the work began with identifying the barriers. I constantly asked myself, does my proposal take into account their needs? Does it respect their culture? I think my most significant realization was that even though the community does whatever its male leader decides, it is important that women discuss these issues themselves. The stronger this discussion becomes, the more social awareness there will be about breast cancer. When there is a very strong community, such as in ultra-Orthodox society, there is an opportunity for one segment of the community to bring a particular topic to the forefront of the community. The women told me that as long as I got official approval from the religious leader, they would go get tested. However, I decide not to insist on a different kind of solution, one that would probably take longer to bring about change, but will ultimately be greater success. At this stage, I explored how I, as a designer, could make an impact and examined what opportunity were available for me to enter the community. Because I understand that awareness should start from a young age, my target audience is women from the age of 19, and my area of action reflects this. I'm currently working on a manual that guides women to check their breast from a young age. This is manual that aims to raise awareness that can lead to change in ultra-Orthodox society. The manual will be found at locations that serves as meeting points for ultra-Orthodox women, like the lingerie store, wig fitter, community neighborhood, and especially in the mikveh, because the ideal time to check for change in the breast is 1 week after menstruation. At this point, the woman will going to immerse in the ritual bath anyway, so this is perfect venue for the check. Hopefully, the exposure will also create social discourse that motivates action. One minute. That's the poster I will made, the first poster, and we can see here in Hebrew, but I need to consider the few something that it's without women, and it's not, we don't see specific what I want to talking about. It's hinted, it's very okay. The word. And how do I measure success in the immediate future? Women will show openness and interest in the topic and check their family history from breast cancer and legitimate social discourse about breast cancer and the importance of the genetic chain. In the long time, more women will get tested at a young age and less women will become sick or die from breast cancer. That it's my advisor. There is my advisor in the world. Chava, she is PhD and she Haredic. Dr. Adal and Gilia, Oria and Shir. I want to finish in the word choose life. And I believe that we have the responsibility to give the possibility of a healthy life to every woman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Plea. It was amazing and very moving presentation. And again, it really symbolizes the vast values that we prefer here at HAC, at our department, social interaction and social change from within. I'm just going to add that, but her project is extremely intelligent, and although it seems a bit simple on the surface, but The choice of fonts, the choice of colors, the grid, the outline, everything has a reason, and it all comes out of a lot of conversations and norms that she discovered inside this community. So again, thank you, Plia. And I'm going to invite our last speaker for today, Geffen. And Adi Geffen is also a graduate of our department, and she is an independent social designer here in Jerusalem. So Adi, come over.
I try to speak from here. You will listen good. Okay. Sorry. So my name is Adi Geffen, and I am a social designer, like Johnson said. And I want, at the time we have, to tell you about my final project that's based on methods from service design, specific co-design, and with focus on culture accessibility for different communities. Sounds big, huh? Let's do it slowly. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna talk with you about this, the beginning of Persona, my project, the design partner that I have worked with them, my work process, what I would have changed if I do the project again from the started, and what my future steps. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So in the last 2 years, and in general, okay. Okay. I feel that there is a free hater between different cultures in Israel, that between extremely interested in emergency events like COVID or disorder and attack and you name it, between ultra-Orthodox and the secular, the Jewish people and Arab people, and between groups from different social and economy backgrounds. Next. During the first year of the COVID, which has become for the safe space for me, I researched how the information moved from the government to all the people in Israel. Sorry. And I found that not take the okay. Next. My interest in the subject has found that this regress from lifestyle and culture exclusive, such as language and world of image, lead to lack of cooperation, and many also lead to harm of human life. According to the study, we can see some problems. In Israel, like Leah said before, there is communities that are not connected to the internet,
They cannot Google it or search in the internet. And their way of getting information it's another thing, like posters or ads or newspapers, not like most of us. At the first, in the outdating channels, the information did not move fast enough for these people. My goal as a social designer was to make sure it's working as planned. One of the important things that I learned is if you want to design for a different culture, you need to build trust. And the best way to build trust is to work with people from the culture. We must have someone from inside, from within the community, who will work together in cooperation with the organization. And so, persona is born. Mazel tov. So I understood that the project must be about service design and specific co-design. Just as I, like a designer, act with this method, chosen my design partner and all of this, and I need I want the organization work the same, like me, with the co-design method. Next. And these are the big steps at the platform, Persona. The first is attaining knowledge, and then finding relevant partners, and setting goals, filling the product testing, and sharing success between all the organizations. Now I want to show you a movie. פלטפורמה שתאפשר לכם, עובדות ועובדי המגזר הציבורי, לרכוש כלים פרקטיים לביסוס אמון מול אנשי המגזרים השונים, תוך שיתוף פעולה עם אנשי המפתח בשטח.
אחראי לקשר עם תושבי מזרח ירושלים, בכל מה שקשור לחיסונים, בדיקות והסברה סביב הקורונה. חלק מהקושי באמת היה לנסות לנווט משהו שלא עשו לפני זה, ובעצם בנינו את הכל מאפס.
הרווחה ישבה שם בחמ"ל, וגם העירייה ישבה שם בחמ"ל, אבל בגלל שהם כל כך מנותקים מהאוכלוסייה ומהצרכים, הם לא חשבו, כאילו, אשר לעזר מציון לוקח דקה.
פרסונה תלווה אתכם שלב אחר שלב, מתהליך הלמידה הראשוני, תוך יצירת התוצר המתאים ועד שיתוף ההצלחות ולמידת עמיתים. המגזר החרדי צורך את המידע הרלוונטי לו אחרי שעבר את התיווך המתאים, בדרכים הבאות: כריזה ברחוב, עיתונות, לוחות מודעות, פה לאוזן וקווי נייס, שזה כמו חדשות בשיחת טלפון.
מה שעשינו זה התחלנו במנהל הקהילתי, בכל אזור היה מנהל אחד או שניים, וראש המנהל קישר אותנו לאנשים מתאימים. ודרכם הגענו גם למוכתרים וגם לאימאמים, במקרה הצורך.
בעזרת פרסונה תוכלו לנהל פרויקטים שונים ומורכבים, עם האוכלוסיות השונות איתם אתם עובדים ביום-יום ובחירום.
הפלטפורמה טובה לכל אירוע שיתרחש, יש את האנשים שאיתך, יש את מה שאתה צריך לעשות, ואחר כך אתה צריך להגיע לשטח, אי אפשר לעקוף את השלבים. אז כן, פשוט הכל מצוין.
Thank you. Throughout the study, I interview a lot of people from a different perspective because I need to consider I want to know all about the thing from another perspective. I research these people through friend or social network and word of mouth. And out of these people, I choose 6 people to be my design partners with who I would diagnose the project along the way. And this is the 6 design partners. One of my design partners is Dina, the woman who spoke in the video. Dina held a new position established in the second wave of COVID called Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil is the woman of Baylor. Her role in the COVID was to represent the sector to the Jerusalem municipality. Dina is an ultra-Orthodox woman, and she could explain to the city what are the needs of her community, and explain to the municipality, and extend the guidelines for her community members. This is some of the questions that I asked Dina. I choose this question to better understand the place of these people, the ultra-Orthodox people, and to see if there is an approval for the feeling I have heard and read about it. Next. Working with Dina as a designer partner, I was able to learn about her experience in the role, about the things that need to be emphasized, about how she was approached and who they work with her. I learned that it is important to explain in a positive attitude that once it was extended to her community in the right way. Other design partner is Jonathan Ventura, Professor Jonathan Ventura. Everyone knows him here. Jonathan was the manager of the work with the Arab sector in East Jerusalem in the COVID. Next. And this is some of the questions that I asked him. I choose these questions to learn more from more like an organization that work with people. Next. Thank you. From him, I learned about their success and failures, the ways to reach important people, the working method, the importance to create collaboration while still in rotation and working in a public organization that the sector doesn't not always expect. From that time, I learned about the importance of building community trust in you as an organization and importance to work in the pilot. And it's the time to say thank you for all the design partners and Jonathan and Dina, and also the Professor Dina Shachar, who occupied me throughout the project. And next. And now I want you to know a little more about my project. I want to share with you the steps that I went through as a designer. So, as with any good design, thank you. So, as with any good design project, I started for research, and then I continued to process materials and collect insights, some of which I present at the beginning. Next, select areas of the for action, build a brief for the project, and marking points that the brief must contain. Then I move to writing configuration and validation. I choose the 30 in which I design and the approach with which I am going to operate, like empathy, building trust, tolerance, and like this. And I began to think about how I could do it in my design with the organization. Yeah. I created a prototype, the task, the thing I learned from the people, and organized them into a clear guideline. Then I promoted file test, present to my design partner, and see if they understand what I'm going on, agree with the process, and if they have constructive comments, and that's it. From that, I made the platform, the web persona. I choose the color and I work with the user experience and all the design do. With the feature development step by step until I tested it in final product. Sounds familiar to you? Anyway, this is how I engage in co-designer. My project is using method co-designer, and that's what I do. Like social design. Okay. If I need to start the final project again, I would have create interactive mockups. My feeling was that I spent a lot of time on the initial research, and I don't know what to do with all the information that I have from the research, and it took me a lot of time to make all the information to tool. Next. In retrospect, I would go out with similar paths each time to the platform as user test instead of dialing the exit to the stage where I have a more comprehensive. So I need to do a little step and to check the platform with the partner design. I would not give up on the way I choose. I check every corner and talk with a lot of people and creating an independent platform without need for closed. The platform is independent. They don't need me. They use just in the web and do a lot of things without me. And another thing is choosing universal product design distinct from a sector. This method will work with every community in every situation and at any time. This project can save lives and precious time. Okay, it's okay. This day, I work on build workshop from public organization. In this workshop, I will expose the organization world of co-design and private them tools to help them do so. Hopefully, each organization will know how to work together with people to design a better product for them. And that very person, no matter what his culture or she culture belongs to, will be able to make their voice heard and get the right answer to them. I believe that the good designers see the moment and learn from it, and also can see how, with the help to unique thinking, it is possibility to create a better situation and allow the resistance of the world a better and more pleasant life. Okay. This was, as I said at the beginning, my final project that's based on method from the service design, specific co-design, with a focus on cultural accessibility for different communities. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Adi. You come over and sit up with us. And Plia, please come and join us. Thank you, Adi. Perhaps we can learn a new word in Hebrew that is called fadicha, which means that someone embarrasses you in public. So that's what happened earlier. But in any way, let's just take the last Q&A. And if some of the students want to ask questions in Hebrew, then just feel free to do it, and I'll translate it in English. Okay, if you're embarrassed, or yeah, Yanka, in Hebrew. Okay, so and again, perhaps we'll just return into in another question, but I think the main issue is that Plia again, and it's obviously easier for her both as an observing person and as a woman to create a personal bond, but in Orthodox communities, the individual is I don't know if it's less important, but it's less central as the community. The community take precedence over everything. So she kind of navigated between individuals and communities, but the actual concept of individuality is very different there. Yeah. Yeah, she says that in one case she asked one woman why isn't she going to check for cancer, and she said, I'm not crazy, people just don't do it, and I'm doing only what other people are doing. So again, very strong communal ties. Yeah. Jessica.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question in a follow-up of everyone, specifically about the bonding with women in the same situation. Can we find some forms of sisterhood or sorority, or women opening to other women, and that generates a certain empowerment, as they don't have to be caught in such a time. My question goes to the title, persona, which means mask in all. Why did you choose this title for yourself?
Yeah, regarding the first, perhaps I'll just start and then you can correct me, because I did a project a few years ago with amulets with Muslim Bedouin women, with a partner. Obviously, she was another anthropologist. And we found out that it's very, very difficult, even thinking in these concepts of mutiny, rebellion, change, both in very Muslim concept and in very Jewish ultra-Orthodox community. So the very concept of social change is very unheard of. So in these cases, I'm pretty sure it's not the case. Although the change is very medical related and not, norm related. So it's very different in concept.
נגיד לדוברי עברית, and then ג'ונתן translate. אז השם פרסונה נבחר, קודם כל, מי שלמד פה עיצוב השירות, אז אחד מהשלבים ברגע שעושים עיצוב שירות זה לייצר פרסונות, כל מיני דמויות מסוימות, שבעזרתם אנחנו בוחנים את הסיטואציה. נגיד קהל יעד שלי זה נשים חרדיות לצורך העניין, זה קהל יעד גדול. אז פרסונות ממש מחלקות את זה לכיוונים שונים של מחשבה. אישה חרדית בת 50, סבתא ל4 נכדים שהיא עקרת בית. אישה חרדית בת 32 שיש לה 5 ילדים והיא עובדת בהייטק. וברגע שלכל אחת יש את השם שלה ואת האפיון שלה, אני יכולה תמיד להסתכל על המבט שלה. אז זה דבר אחד, כי זה באמת אחד מהכלים של עיצוב שירות. והדבר השני, פרסונה, man, woman, זה בעצם אישיות. והרעיון בפרויקט שלי זה להסתכל על כל אדם כאדם. וברגע שארגון מסוים, מוסד מסוים, מעביר הנחיות לציבור הרחב, אני מאמינה שהוא צריך להסתכל ממש מי הציבור שלו. לא 10 מיליון אזרחים במדינת ישראל, אלא אזרחים מהמגזר הערבי, או מהמגזר החרדי, או מהגיל השלישי, או מעולים חדשים, וממש לנסות לנתח, ממש כמו שעושים בעיצוב שירות, מי בדיוק האנשים שהוא עובד איתם, ולהסתכל עליהם בנפרד, כל אדם.
Okay, so general translation, yeah. And then in Chinese. Okay, so first, first regarding, okay, so there are two layers. First of all, in service design, persona is a key methodology of creating not specific, but more general kind of types of people in which you can work with. So it could be like a young soldier that is parents in Jerusalem and a grandma that has 6 grandchildren and she's independent, for example. So persona is a strategy, a methodology in service design. The second one was that when working, and Adi perhaps didn't mention, but she worked with the Jerusalem municipality, and Jerusalem has 1 million residents, and it's not a lot in European standards, but it's very complex because we have a third of which is secular, a third is ultra-Orthodox, and a third is Arabs. So it's very, very complicated, and municipalities in general tend to treat people as a number or as a client that pays taxes. And Adi wanted to enter and introduce a more personal approach towards the actual individuals that live there. So that's kind of two a bit contradicting things, but complementary in a way. That would be 200 shekels later on. Any other questions? Yeah, Visa.
Does she come from the same community? And so, I mean, what is it? How do you become a woman better? Again, the agency of, the woman you were talking about was a bit different from the woman she was talking about, but in the end, it's the same community.
Okay, so perhaps I'll start because I worked with the municipality. So after the first wave, the municipality of Jerusalem worked with the home front service, and they kind of created because again it's very complicated to get into, but Jerusalem has 25 like smaller municipalities, and inside there are 4 smaller community centers. So what each one of them, and they work sort of independently. So each one kind of created an emergency center, and each one of these offered work to people from each community to work with them in order to mediate between the home front IDF and the residents. And these people were called in the Orthodox communities Anshe Chayil. In the Arab sector, they were named differently, obviously, because the title is from the Bible, so it's irrelevant. Yeah, so again, what we call ultra-Orthodox has at least 20 subsections. So one of them, for example, Dina, could have come from a big like ethno group, but inside it, there are 10 different ones. So she was from a different one, but she was still from the larger Iranian group, for example. So just one last question from my end, because again, it interests us. How would you two define social design? Because each of you works a bit differently. So how would you define it? And it's obvious, it's important for us because I'm struggling to define this concept still after like 5 years. So please just give us your own kind of view on the subject.
אני הולכת לשטח, זה ממש, במקרה שלי ישבתי כמעט 3 שעות בכל מתחם, כאילו בכל חנות, כאילו כיבדתי אותם, לא ניסיתי לשכנע, פשוט באתי. אני עשיתי.
אז הדבר הראשון שחשבתי עליו זה לבוא חסרת אגו. בעצם אני מגיעה לאנשים, לרוב אני לא גם מספרת עליי יותר מדי מאיזה רקע, אני כדי לבוא הכי נקייה שאפשר, ופשוט מקשיבה להם, שואלת כל דבר, שואלת למה, איך הם מרגישים, למה הם, כאילו ממש מנסה לחיות קצת בתוכם בראש שלהם, כדי להבין אותם יותר, ומה שלא אני פשוט מבקשת עוד הסבר.
Okay, so again, I'm pretty proud of these definitions because it's kind of the classic definitions of anthropology. So Plia, yeah, finally, I'm right. So Plia mentioned that the fieldwork was a key part of social design and working with people, for people inside the community and actually experiencing the field. We call it in Hebrew, watching from eye to eye and just seeing with your own eyes. Empathy is key and arriving without any judgment and just listening to people and accepting their answers. And Adi mentioned again that she came without any ego and left a lot of space to get inside and understand their point of view. Ask a lot of questions and actually live with the people at least for a short amount of time. Okay, so I think that's it for us. Just as a closing remark, again, thank you all and thank you for the speakers and the previous speakers. So a final round of applause to everyone, and please keep following our actions because Social Design Network, we have an unofficial site, but it will come live in a few months, we believe. And again, that's it. And again, thank you all. Feel free to come over and talk with these wonderful people, and we'll see you in the next event.